Beavan. Dr. Beavan is the author of the book, of course, that many of you have read, No Impact Man. We estimate that roughly a little over 2,000 students read that book during the course of this year at the college. And of course, the book has been read by many more, perhaps hundreds of thousands of individuals, and translated into action by college students and others around the world. As many of you know, in November 2006, let's shut the cell phones down for the evening as well. Dr. Beavan launched a year-long project in which he, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and their 4-year-old dog attempted to live in the middle of New York City with as little impact as possible. This project experimented with ways of living that could both improve the quality of life and, of course, help our planet. But you may not know a lot about the author. The author actually has a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Liverpool in England. In the 1980s and 90s, he was a consultant to philanthropic organizations who did such things as work on social housing projects, drug treatment agencies, and hospitals, helping to promote themselves in order to secure increased funding in a scarce time. In 1992, he returned to the United States and has written for magazines and then has become very successful in writing books. Dr. Beavan was named one of MSN's top 10 influential men in 2007 and was named an Illustrator in Elle Magazine's 2008 Green Awards. His blog, No Impact Man, was named one of the world's top 15 environmental websites by Time Magazine. He currently directs the No Impact Project and is a visiting scholar and advisor to the university's Sustainability Task Force at NYU. Let's give a warm Florida State College at Jacksonville welcome to our lecturer tonight and our author of our book that many of us have read, Dr. Colin Beavan.
Did you guys pay extra for those seats? I didn't think so. And there are people up there. Oh, yeah. If you wouldn't, lighting person, if you wouldn't mind turning the spotlight down just a little bit so I can actually see that there are people up there. That would be lovely. Anyway, hi. Hi. You know, that was a very nice introduction, but a lot of times I feel like those long introductions where they say, he accomplished this, and he accomplished that, and they did this, and they did that, one thing or another, and it kind of emphasizes the differences between us all. And sometimes I'm not so in favor of that, so let me tell you the truth about me, which is what my little girl is. I hope you, in New York, is it okay to say poop in Florida in public? In New York, it's okay to say poop in Florida. So anyway, the truth of the matter is, if you really want to know who I am, my little girl Isabella should give the introduction, because what she would tell you is, Dad, you're just a poop head. and I prefer actually to be introduced as a poop head because most of us either have kids or have had kids. Or I should say have been kids. How many people here were once children? So when I say that I'm a poop head, you know, because you've been a parent, that you've either been called a poop head, or because you've been a kid, you've called somebody else a poop head. And so that means that we actually have everything in common. And as opposed to this like PhD, University of Liverpool, all this kind of stuff that makes us seem separate. And I just think it's so important that we look for the commonalities between us now in these times rather than the differences. So yeah, I hope you will all join me in claiming your inner poop headness and say that we're all the same. As a matter of fact, hey, where's the video? Oh, where's the streaming camera? Where is it? Oh, there. Oh, hello, people in the other auditorium. You're all the same too, and your poop heads. But my point is that this business about being different versus being the same. I feel like we're in a lot of emergencies. I say we have an economic emergency, we have an environmental emergency, and I would argue we have a quality of life emergency too. And we don't seem to be able to talk to each other without fighting and arguing. And as long as we fight and argue and emphasize our differences, how are we ever going to do what needs to be done? So that's why I always, kind of throw away the resume and tell you what Isabella calls me. Before we start, by the way, there are three questions that people always ask me, so I'm going to dispense with those questions. By the way, could all the professors in the audience, all the teachers from the college, please close your eyes just for one moment? Yeah, you in the video audience too. Any professors, please close your eyes. Okay. Can I now ask, how many people here have read the book? Thank you. Okay. Professors, you can open your eyes. Okay. What have you been doing in your classes, professors? Just joking. So I'm not going to go into the whole story of No Impact Man. It's the story of me and my family living as environmentally as possible in New York City. I'm not going to tell the whole story again because you've read it. And recently I actually gave a talk at Texas State, and they had read the book and they brought me in to do it. And one very kind student put on their blog after I talked. Here's a preview of what's to come. She said, I was forced to go and hear Colin Beavan give his talk, and after being forced to read his book, when I had to listen to him, I felt like I was forced to read the whole thing over again. So I'm not going to tell you the story of my book, okay? So if you've read my book, you'll be glad to know you've only been forced to read it once. But I will answer, there's these three questions that people always ask me. As you know, in the book, there were some problems with Isabella's health. There were those episodes where, just in case you didn't read it, there was this thing that happened with Isabella where we were in Italy and she had this, she was just a little baby, she threw up, then she had diarrhea, then she passed out, and it was very frightening. And then back in New York sometime later, so we were worried about her health, and actually the whole thing in Italy was appalling. There was an ambulance ride and she was unconscious for, 20 minutes, and then some Italian doctor came up to us and he said, we're worried about, how do you say, a neurological event. And it was the scariest thing ever. And then when we got back to New York, actually during the year when we were living No Impact, one night we were fast asleep and I started hearing this noise coming from Isabella's bed, and she was having some sort of a seizure, and we had to call the ambulance again, and we went to the hospital, and actually by the time it was the cutest thing ever, by the time we actually got to the hospital, she was all better, and there was an ice machine in the emergency room, and she was like, can I have some ice, Dad? And so the first question everybody oftentimes asks me is, how's Isabella? So I just want to tell you that Isabella's grown out of her febrile seizure. She's totally fine. She's 6 years old. And she's obviously added the word poop to her vocabulary. She's totally good. Another question everybody always asks is, well, what was the hardest part of the No Impact year? I'll just tell you that washing a kid's laundry by hand every day because there was no electricity, so there was no laundry machine. So I washed we called it Great Stompers Laundry Day because we threw the laundry in the bathtub and kind of stomped it, which basically does what a laundry, if you think that's what a laundry machine does, it agitates, right? So that was the hard part. And then one day, Isabella threw up on her sheets, and God help the poor little girl, because that day I was not thinking of her health. I was not thinking, poor Isabella, she's sick. I was thinking, I am going to have to hand wash the chunks of So, and if there are any parents in the crowd, tell me this: if your child throws up, what is the best prediction of what they're going to be doing a half an hour from now?
Throwing up.
Throwing up. So I changed the sheets, right? And she threw up again. And I changed the sheets again, and she threw up again. So then I have 3 sets of sheets waiting for me in the bathtub the next day. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to cheat. And I went down and used the laundry machine. I thought, as long as I'm cheating with the sheets, I'm going to throw the rest of the laundry in. And then the next day, I thought to myself, you know how like when you're on a diet, if you have it's Sunday and you have a piece of cake on Sunday, and on Monday you think to yourself, oh, to hell with it, I had some cake yesterday, I'll have some cake today too. Well, that's what I did with the laundry. So I like did the laundry the next day, and finally I was like, all right, this is going to be my big cheat. I'm going to use the laundry machine because I couldn't do that. So that was the hardest part. And then, okay, the last question. Yeah, this guy's like, I know what it is. How many of you had your professors tell you that you were not allowed to ask me what I did instead of toilet paper? One. I heard that there were certain forbidden questions. Yeah, well, tough luck. You're never going to find out. No, I'm joking. Kind of. You know, there was this one time when, you know, honestly about this question, if you read the book, you know that the question kind of irritates me, and it irritates me, first of all, because we have some gigantic problems, like I alluded to, right? We have some big problems in the world. And so why is it that everybody wants to know about my private bathroom habits when there's like 80,000 species going extinct a year? It's like I know, I feel bad about the polar bears and all those little bugs in the Amazon that are extinct, and the dodo bird and everything like that, but how do you clean yourself in the bathroom? It's irritating from that point of view, and it's just, you know, also when there was a point at which a New York Times story came out about the project that we were doing, you know, I was really earnest about doing the No Impact Man year, and I really wanted to, you know, it was important to me. I was, you know, trying to create a story that made people pay attention to these issues, and I stayed up till midnight because the New York Times posts its news stories